Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Reference Point. I'm your host, Dave Cokerhook, and I'm excited to say I'm back here in the studios at KMVT. The last show I was able to do in studio was in March of 2019, and then COVID hit and everything shut down, and have not been able to be back here with the crew and the staff and a live guest for quite some time. So I'm excited to be here, and today I'm here with Dee Dee Kiesow, and Dee Dee is the founder and owner of Benevent Auctions here in Santa Clara County. So Dee Dee, welcome to Reference Point.
Thank you. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here.
So one of the big reasons that I'm excited to have you here and I wanted to talk to you is you do a tremendous amount of work, I guess almost exclusively with nonprofit organizations. And I've had a number of nonprofits on my show over the years, and I've had interaction with nonprofits in one way, shape, or form for a very long time. And I know that nonprofit organizations in general have this vision of the wonderful thing they want to do, and almost all of them struggle with being able to have the capital that's necessary to keep the few people on staff that get some kind of reasonable paycheck and the lights open and the doors and the stuff that they need to do whatever they need to do. And that's a challenge for NPOs. So you're in that field of helping them. I'm curious one, why you got into the NPO realm to begin with, and secondly, what it is that you do that's different that helps these people accomplish their mission.
Well, thanks. I got into this because I saw so many bad practices happening, and I knew that I could do it better. And so in 3 decades of doing this, and actually hands-on and results, I've kind of harnessed this into a way to transfer these skills to nonprofit professionals and those in the field, so they too can, take the shortcut, do it the right way. And the challenge is the mission and the mindset. The mindset is my biggest challenge with working with clients, and that is believing that they can't raise the money, thinking that their nonprofit is all about the day-to-day tasks they do, and not the transformation of what they were founded to do. So it goes a little bit like this. Are you going to continue to just keep putting blacktop on potholes and continuing to operate your business the way you always have? Are you raising money for corks to put into a leaky boat? Or are you innovating? Are you raising the bar and creating a whole new way to serve at a higher level so you can recruit people into where you want to be 3 years, 5 years from now?
I think a lot of times that people that are involved with an NPO or that run an NPO don't think of themselves as being in a business. They think of themselves as being on almost like a crusade, or a mission.
Yes.
But so this idea of return on investment or it just isn't part of the mindset. So how do you break through on something like that?
Well, I created a multi-step process, and this is what I use with clients. And number one is the mindset. Like, how can you think like a 6-figure fundraiser and really believe that you can recruit donors and dollars to the transformation and your innovative way of serving your clients versus the day-to-day mission? The return on investment of doing it the old thinking way, that old fundraising way of despair and guilt to raise money,
right,
versus this high energy level of joy and opportunity. And this is what I tell.
That's like a substantial difference. I mean, you even see these things on the TV all the time. The animals that are dying or whatever. And so, I've seen that with just organizations that are there to serve people, whether it's the homeless, whether it's women's shelters, whether it's whatever it happens to be. They tend to want to bring forth the tragedy, okay, and thinking that maybe they think that that's what's going to draw people to support them. I don't know. But what I'm hearing you say is that you need to highlight the vision, because that's what your public, your potential donors, your potential helpers, volunteers are going to relate to. Am I hearing that right?
You know, Yep, you absolutely are. And I'm just going to give an example of like one of the worst events that I was a guest at. And people invite me to go to their galas or fundraisers all the time. That you need to see, you need to come, you need to tell us what we can do better. So I went to this event, and they had spent $47,000. It was all underwritten to have an event, and they treated it like a party. And they raised $33,000 in the end, and they had the wrong person asking for the money. They hired a comedian to invite gifts in. He was mocking the cause. We had a sad person who was not transformed by the organization yet, but a person that was still hurting and telling their tragic story. And that does not invite joyful giving.
Joyful giving, I think that's an interesting term. It implies to me that there is an audience or a contingent that would be happy to support a mission if they felt good about it, or if they understood it. And I guess so many NPOs think that for them to understand it, they have to understand the tragedy that they're serving rather than the result that they can create by participation. Am I getting there?
You are.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, when I work with a client, and I'm pro-event, I don't believe you need to spend a ton of money to have an event, but here's the deal. If you have an event, you can invite donors in, and you have permission to ask for money. If you meet a new donor, there's quite a process to get them through your organization and cultivating them before it's okay to ask for a gift. But if you pop open an event, hey, everybody's ripe for the asking, and it's a disservice not to allow interested donors to make a gift to your cause that can bring joy and prosperity to everybody involved.
The term you just used, a disservice to the end of the potential donor. How do you get through to the leadership of a nonprofit to help them reach that point of understanding that they have to have this shift of perspective, because like you say, it's a disservice to the people out there who want to help. How do you get through?
Well, first of all, not everybody is your donor. And you really need to stick with people who love your cause and love the transformation you provide.
How do you find them?
You know what? Your top donors are already attached to other like-minded people, and that's the secret. You're looking for people who are attached to the transformation. So stop going out and saying, send money, we need to feed people, and start saying, here is a testimony from an individual whom we've helped, who now we help them have a job and transitional housing, and this is the individual that our mission is to create the whole person, right? We don't stay in that dark, low energy, sad place. The transformation of a nonprofit is to lift and bring everybody up to a new place of prosperity. And putting someone, I think it's sinful, actually, it's a crime to put a hurting person on a stage to tell a testimony of how they continue to hurt and their sad, sad story, where, with my coaching, when we do an event, I work with the individual, and we have a 3-step process for that story, and it's talking about how the organization helped me become a better person. And I'm no longer in that hurting place, and that's where we want those donors to see that transformation.
That's very cool. So, you are, your company is Benevent Auctions.
Yes.
And you are actually an auctioneer. Is that
I am.
You are, yeah. So how did that come about? I mean, was that an obvious way to go when you wanted to support nonprofits? Was that the natural avenue for you to go down, or did you?
That was the last thing on my mind, right? But I met this woman who'd written the book on charity auctions and how you put an auction and how you put that dynamic ask opportunity in an event. She wrote the book on it. She trained me. I was her protege, and the wonderful Kathy Kingston, who passed away in January of 2020, left this legacy of teaching people how to invite joyful gifts. And so I was actually working as an executive director of a nonprofit, and I just picked up the phone one day and called her, and she said, "This is what you're doing wrong." And I said, "But all of this is right." And she goes, "You know what? You're like the first person that sees this as an entrepreneurial endeavor, and I'd like to work with you more." And she invited me to this book signing with the top auctioneers in the country, and picked up the phone and said, "You got to go to auction school. And by the way, here's the person that you need to talk to." And she was absolutely right, because these events that I'd been going to, as much as the nonprofit had worked to get the story out, they would hire an auctioneer or a person to ask for the money in the moment, and they didn't understand the mission and the transformation.
Oh.
And it was transactional fundraising, like, well, live auction and money, 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 and it's not about the money.
If I understood what you just said, there's a difference between just an auctioneer and an auctioneer that is focused on this joyful giving concept that you have identified for a nonprofit organization. Those are different mindsets, as well as there's a different mindset within the NPO that has to reach that point where very cool. Very cool. That makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, cool. So you've been doing this now for a little while, 10 years, 20 years, something like that?
Nonprofits, 3 decades,
3
I
decades
like to say.
of work. Okay. And from one of the things that you told me when we were, before show, you've actually delivered your services all over the country.
I do.
So anybody who happens to be watching this from any place might be able to say, "Oh, I got this lady's website. I'm going to reach out to her and see what's going on." So, how do you're one person. How many groups can you help?
Well, it depends on how people choose to work with me. So I start out, I can do online training. I have sixfigurefundraising.com, and that is my training academy where I will take a nonprofit, and many, as a matter of fact, through a 3-month boot camp of training the steps it takes to get to a gala and to monetize those minutes and absolutely do all the processes. And then many people choose after the boot camp or that kind of training, they might want to work with me one-on-one.
Got it.
And that is much deeper.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the kinds of fundraising activities that the typical nonprofit organization will do. They'll have, they'll throw a party, they'll do a concert, they might have a raffle, they might have a silent auction, all sort of things that are kind of non-threatening. Actually, I got to step back a little bit and tell you, my career has been in sales and marketing, okay? And my first experience in sales when I was in elementary school trying to sell world's finest chocolate candies door to door, okay? And I went up to this one house and the guy slammed the door in my face and I was absolutely crushed, and my dad took me home and stuff like that. So it's like, I swore that I would never, ever go into sales, okay? And that's what my entire career has been, in sales and marketing. A shift in mindset, okay? And I think that the things that a lot of NPOs are looking at, the kind of things that I mentioned, we're going to have a concert, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, pay for some big name to come in and do whatever, are the things that they think are going to enable them to generate funds in a way that they don't have to take direct action.
You are absolutely right. You're a genius. Listen, if you love your nonprofit, you have to get that 6-figure mindset where you are an advocate and an asker and an ambassador for that cause, and no fear. And the easiest way to do that is to have an enrollment event. I didn't say gala, I didn't say $1 million steak dinner or anything like that, although I do events, 1,000 people and they spend lots of money. But bring people in so you can tell them the transformation, and they can meet the transformation and see it firsthand. And you have 100% permission to offer them that opportunity to make that joyful gift. Raffles, transactional fundraising, you never get to know the donor. Concerts, those are wonderful. They raise money, but you don't get to meet the individuals and actually cultivate them, get to know their name. All the other things you mentioned, silent auction, wow, that is a great way to take a small business and squander the the works that they have and sell it for less than fair market value. It takes a ton of effort. You're using up square feet in a building that you might have had a high donor sitting in that square footage. So we want to really go in and analyze every single bit of that. But there is nothing like bringing a crowd together. And by the way, when you use a paper bid card and you have people raising their paddle for a live auction item, I just got, as an auctioneer and also as an executive director and a major gifts officer when I wore those hats, I just saw that Dave over here could be a live one for me to thank as soon as this event is over in person. And I can say, hey, thanks for raising your bid card. It means a lot. Thank you for your support. Isn't that very different than a raffle?
What's interesting about that, I think, is it's coming from a position of recognizing that the person who raised their bid card is interested in supporting the effort, okay? And you are acknowledging that support. Okay, here again, it's like a massive mind shift from this for the typical nonprofit person who's involved in the nonprofit, because fundraising is like a hateful thing. The concept of fundraising is, oh God, I gotta go. I hate raising money. I hate asking people for money. That's one of the things that a lot of folks that I've known over the years who I said, well, I'm in sales, I go, oh, I hate asking people for money. But it's like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm providing a solution to a problem, and there's an exchange. And here we're talking about being able to provide a solution to a problem. It may not be the problem of the donor, but the donor recognizes the problem and is looking to support the effort to solve that problem. Am I with you on this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And my two favorite things is public speaking and in raising money, right?
Yeah.
But what if you just thought of yourself as a human magnet? You're a human magnet, and you need to bring in people who love your cause and can make a difference.
Let's talk about where you find those people that love your cause, because those are the ones that you want to have come in. And those, of course, are also going to be the ones that will be there with you next year and the year after that and the year after that.
Absolutely.
So how do you find them?
Well, you know what? You should have a board that should be talking about why they're on a board, and they love serving your cause so much that they're out there finding people all year long. That's why you have this event. So your board can bring those 10 or 15 people that they've been talking to, bring them to the event so they can have the opportunity to give a gift. Not put them on a mailing list and hope that they get through the message and they learn about the transformation you cause. But do you see the difference? If you have 10 or 12 people and they each just bought, 3 or 4 couples, you have over 100 people that way. And in addition to your other major donors, you're talking to them and bringing their other like-minded people. We're not looking at casting a gigantic net and bringing as many people as possible. You want the right people at that event. And by the way, did you know that there's 5 different types of people that come to a gala?
I did not know that.
So we have the competitive bidder, and they like the live auction. That's 10 or 12 of your percent of your people. But if you can look at that live auction and you have 3 to 5 items and they're a couple $1,000s a piece, what a great way to spend 10 minutes and make $20,000 in an instant, right?
Yeah.
Then you have, your chance takers, and they like the raffle. That's okay. When you're having your cocktail hour and warm up, maximize and monetize those minutes before we actually start the program. Have a little raffle. Doesn't have to cost a lot of money. People always say, I don't know how to get raffle or live auction items. They're already connected to your cause. I help you find those. Then there's the silent auction. That tends to be people who just really want to get a product for as little as possible. And what a terrible way to treat a small business, right? Put that online if you must do the silent auction. Those don't really tend to be big givers. And then after that live auction, and you've done these monetize your minute type of individuals and given them a way to give in a way they like to give, have a paddle raise. and let them just reach into their heart and give a joyful gift to the cause.
This is approaching the whole process from a business mindset, and I think yet again, I keep coming back to the concept that the people at the NPO have to think differently, and if anybody's watching out there as part of a nonprofit organization, it's like if the thing that you're doing that everybody that you know is doing, what's the success been? Okay, and if it's like you're getting the kind of level of mediocre return on all of that effort, why not consider a new possibility? It doesn't hurt you to investigate the potential, right?
No, and one of the best events I ever did cost $12 a head, and we made $50,000.
There you go.
We didn't have to spend a ton of money. And I will say there's one individual you don't want at your event.
Yeah.
The reveler. Like, imagine you and I, we buy a table, we bring, we thought we were bringing great people, but somebody decided to bring their kid or somebody disinterested in the cause, and they came to eat and drink and give no money. I want my clients always to think of the seats at a table, the seats at the event, as prime real estate for people who can become major givers. And, by the way, we're recruiting donors and volunteers.
So let's talk about this concept of major giver. I mean, if a nonprofit organization is going to do something, and some of them are, fairly small and localized and doing things in their immediate community, and for them, being able to come up with $5,000 or an additional $5 or $7 or $8 grand takes them to that next level of being able to serve from their mission perspective. Is that, who do you? I think a lot of people think that if I'm going to have someone that's going to come to an event like this, they have to be like, Elon Musk and have unlimited funds. And you're smiling because I can see that you're thinking, no, that's not true.
I'm out of here. No. You know what? That is the last thing. And I've been a major gifts officer. I've had the software at my fingertips where you can go scrub a person's wealth and you know how much to ask for. And I absolutely despised it, and it made me actually one of the reasons I left the organization. I believe that authenticity and inviting you in and showing you the transformation and what our dreams are, our innovative dreams for the future, what we're going to do, you are going to decide if we are worthy of greater gifts. It's not my job to go look at your wealth and try to trick you into giving a lot of money. And I've had clients say, "Who do you bring, or who do you know with big pockets?" Nobody. That's not part of my
not
service.
The point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But look at it this way: if you go to a salad bar, right? It's an all-you-can-eat salad bar. Let's just say it's at 17 Mile Drive. That's a really good one, by the way, right? Do you come in and you only eat lettuce leaves? Or as they get to know you, they welcome you in and say, "Hey, you know what? Look at all these other things we have. We've got lobster, we have all these things." And that's how donors are. They may give you a lettuce leaf when you first get to know them, but cultivating them, getting to know them, thanking them. People don't keep their wealth in their checkbook. There's vehicles and property and life insurance and 401ks, and there is a giant salad bar of availability, and if you're willing to do the work. And I'm going to tell you right now, Dave, my biggest disappointment is people who are not willing to do the work. They're not willing to bring people to the organization. They don't want to bring it on. They don't want to ask. They don't want to invite. And those are not my clients.
I guess that's a key point, because assuming that you're able to get the shift in mindset, there's effort that has to go in to being able to have an effective event, and you need to take some action. You need to be so proud of what it is that your organization is doing that you will invite anybody that you come in contact. Now, you said earlier you don't want to just throw something on Facebook and say anybody in the world come to my event. I mean, that's not exactly what you're looking for. But you have to be willing to communicate about what you do. And some people are going to say yes, and some people are going to say no. And the ones that say, yeah, that sounds interesting, maybe I'll come, great, So that's very cool. I think we've probably got, I don't know how much time we got left, maybe 2 or 3 minutes left in the show here, Dee Dee. I appreciate your coming. So I kind of want to wrap up with any last thoughts that you have, to communicate to those folks who are NPO type people why it makes sense for them to at least take a look at this kind of a possibility.
Well, listen, you have one shot about once a year to have an opportunity to invite anybody that cares about the transformation that you provide and invite them in. And when they come to your event, it is a volunteer, a donor recruitment event. You need to look at return on investment, monetize those minutes, be thinking about who the minutes are reaching out to, and are you generating income every minute? Are you going to get to the fundraising before people leave? Mm-hmm. They leave and they always take their wallets with them. And when they're gone, they're
Go
gone.
figure.
Right?
Yeah.
So one other thing that really worked for me, and that was lapsed donors. Going into the thing that the nonprofit people would despise the most, is that making a phone call to someone that has been felt disenfranchised, who gave hundreds of thousands of dollars in their lifetime, and suddenly they're giving nothing. I think that's the first place to start turning up the rocks and rolling up your sleeves. And I have a gift for the listeners. If they go to sixfigurefundraising.com/free gift, I have an ebook. And it unloads every step I took to bring back millions of dollars from lapsed donors.
Very cool. And with that, thank you so much, Dee Dee. It's a pleasure to have you here. Great conversation, and I hope that you folks have been paying attention. If you are involved with an NPO, or you know if someone is, church, group, whatever it is, think about this, because I'm sure it has some possibilities for you. So Dee Dee, again, thank you, and ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time on Reference Point.